Colors in Medieval Seal Bag versus Archaeological Textiles from Swedish Cities by Maria Neijman and Amica Sundström. What does the Swedish archaeological medieval textile material look like? During the 60s and the 70s, many Swedish city centers were rebuilt and modernized. The cities that has a history to medieval times generated large amounts of archaeological material. The preservation conditions with thick, oxygen-poor cultural layers has meant that a lot of organic material has been preserved there, also textiles. Textile finds can be divided into four main groups. 1. Loose wool, often felted. 2. Packing textiles, thick fabric woven in plain weave with a two-plied thread in both warp and weft. 3. Strings, cords and ribbons. 4. Fabrics, for clothing and interior. Common for all is that the preserved material is almost exclusively made out of wool and today has a brown earth-like color. Group 4 consists of 3 different types of items. 1. A lost item such as a sock or a mitten. 2. Craft waste, leftovers and scraps from clothing production. 3. Worn and recycled fabrics that have often had its last use as rag or a toilet paper. The textile in the group have a relatively wide range of qualities, from the finest fine to the coarser weaves suitable for blankets. The binding are mainly plain weave, 2-2 twill and 2-1 twill, which is the dominant one. In addition to this, there are striped fabrics and few patterned with 2-1 twill in goose eye. With a few exceptions, the textiles has a Z spun thread in the warp with a high twist, and the weft is often looser spun in S. Often the weft is also thicker than the warp. Qualities that are more square in setting are generally more similar in appearance in both warp and weft. The qualities are suitable divided into different visual groups where the appearance and the thickness of the fabric becomes decisive. 1. Very fine. 2. Fine. 3. Medium. 4. Medium coarse. 5. Coarse. The first 3 groups can be divided into 2 qualities: dense warp setting or square setting. Today, the fragments are brown in different range of light brown to dark brown. A few fragments clearly shows grey fibers, which indicates that grey wool were used. The lightest fragments might have been naturally white wool, and the darkest could have been naturally brown wool. The majority of the fragments are dark brown. Dyes are poorly preserved in archaeological context. If the color is preserved, it is almost always red, but also other colors can sometimes be sensed, for an example in the middle picture. On this fragment, the weaving technique shows that there was a stripe. It can be shown in the middle of the fragment, but today there are very little differences in shade. Over the years, various archaeological textiles have undergone color analysis, most recently about 20 archaeological samples from the medieval city of Lödöse, Swedish west coast. Color analysis shows which pigment that had been used, but cannot indicate the concentration, the strength of color, or the color shade. This means that the analysis information provides a framework for which pigment has been used, but is still too imprecise to be able to be completely satisfying with the result. The analysis from Lödöse gave luteolin, weld, alizarin with purpurine, madder, carmesic acid, kermes, indigotin, woad, tannin, bark and gall apple. We have extensive experience of dyeing with plants, and our experiments has given a wide color palette, as you can see in the picture. Depending on how the textile fibers have been prepared, what kind of metal pot is used, and the amount of pigment, whether it's the main bath or an after bath, and if any kind of after treatment have been made, many colors and shades can be obtained. In addition to all that, we can add overdyes with other pigments. For an example, madder can give over 70 different shades from bright red, light apricot, brown and almost black. From textiles preserved in churches, one can see rich sets of color shades in the medieval embroideries. However, this is usually silk thread, as can be seen in the pictures. But are the colors dyed on silk representative for woolen fabrics? Even above ground, dyes fades and loses some strength over time. Yellow fades fastest and the red stays the longest. Here are two well-preserved examples of wool embroideries that have gotten an unusual amount of colors. The embroidery to the left, with long-legged cross-stitch from Fogde Church, has 11 different colors, and the cushion from Ärentuna Church has 10 colors. Gilded leather embroideries are made out of large pieces of woolen fabrics in strong colors, mostly red, dark blue, but also green. The embroidery from Ilsbo also have fabric in light blue and light green. Here on Dalhem 1, you can see that the yellow dye in the green fabric have faded and therefore today shows a turquoise fabric. The embroidery Skokloster 1 also shows purple fabric. On a closer inspection, the fabric turned out to be made out of thread spun with a mix of red and blue fibers. The mix of red and blue fibers creates an optic illusion and gives it different shades of purple. These two fabrics are very unique in the preserved material in Sweden. Our analysis shows that they are consistent. The qualities match well with the archaeological fabrics, Group 3 medium and Group 4 coarse. In Eva Andersson's thesis, Clothing and the Individual in Medieval Sweden and Norway, she has reviewed 118 Swedish and 197 Norwegian wills. From the period between 1340 and 1389, the will states colors of 100 garments, and the percentage of these are 30% blue, 24 red, 15 green, 16 brown, 9 white, 4 black, 2 grey. On medieval legal documents, have those who signed the document put their seal as a guarantor of the document. The document is only valid if the seal is left and intact. Therefore, they have been sewn bags on top of their seals of textiles. These bags can be made out of linen fabric or wool fabric. National Archives in Stockholm has digitalized a large amount of its medieval documents. In connection with this, they have posted pictures on their public database, SDHK. We reacted to the fact that there was medieval textiles in a different context and that the seal bags were of dyed fabric. In the right corner of the document, you can read 25th of July, 1377. Here we have a medieval fabric that can be dated to the day the document were created and could be linked to an actual person. In addition, the qualities of the fabric looks like they're those found in the medieval cities. This means that here is a source of dyed fabrics corresponding to the fabrics in the museum archaeological collections. These seal bags have been protected in archives and have never been in the ground, so the color of them are very well preserved. On 3 occasions, we have studied 39 documents. The documents was far above our expectations. We will continue to study more seal bags when the pandemic is over and the archive reopens. The documents are dated between 1360 and 1397. They can have one seal bag connected to the document, but usually there are at least 3 and in some cases even up to 8 seal bags attached to the document. Today they are all cut open so you can see the seal inside the bag. The fabrics in the bags are made out of linen or wool. The linen fabrics are unbleached, white, blue or light red. The fabrics with strong colors are all made out of wool, and these are the ones we will continue to talk about. The seal bags of wool are all dyed. They have really strong dyes. The most common are dark blue and strong red. The most common is a really dark, almost black blue dye. Some looks like they have been dyed with more than one pigment, since there is a tint of red, purple or green and can be seen on some of the bags. No medium blue dyed fabrics can be found within the studied seal bags. The red fabric shows a strong madder red, this one with blue dyed linen sewing thread. The inside shows a fulled surface. The qualities of the fabrics of the seal bag matches well with the fabrics in the gilded leather embroideries and with the archaeological textiles in the medium qualities. They are woven in plain weave and 2-1 twill and are slightly felted. Some seal bags has different colors on front and back side. This document have 2 seals, one with red and green and one with red and yellow. Some bags were fiber mixed in the same way as the fabrics in Skokloster 1. Depending on the amount of red and blue fibers, one can create different shades of purple. In the right picture there is a piece of already spun fiber, which indicates that a fiber had been torn and the fibers from it have been recycled. Some bags show seams from previous use, which indicate of recycles of other textiles. Here you can see a joining seam on the seal bag. Most of the bags are sewn without no greater care. The documents with many seals still have different fabrics on the seal bags, which indicates that it is the owner of the seal who brings the fabric. Collection of all the analyzed seal bags. The majority of them are blue. Conclusion. The red color was highly expected as it is one of the dyes you can see in archaeological material. The yellow and green were expected, but a very good confirmation that they have been used. The blue surprises as they are so dark and sometimes seem to be of a 2-color mix. What we find most interesting are the fiber mixed fabrics. This is something that is not at all visible in the archaeological material. As you can see, the seal bags show strong colors in few shades. We would expect more nuances in both the blue and red dyes. No weaker afterbath can be found. It's also quite surprisingly that there are no undyed fabrics at all. The archaeological material has a greater width in fabric qualities and spans over a longer time period. There are also seal bags from the 13th and the 15th centuries. So, after studying these, perhaps additional pieces of the puzzle can be added to the understanding of the colors of the medieval fabrics. Of course, the results need to be analyzed and yet too little material has been studied to be able to make safe assumptions. The documents consistently represent people with resources, while the fabrics from the cities are more unknown. But in the archaeological material, there are fabrics of even finer qualities than in the seal bags, so high-status textiles are also represented in the archaeological material. The conclusion we can draw is that the Middle Ages were more colorful than the archaeological material shows. With this, we would like to thank you for listening, and please don't hesitate to contact us if you have input or questions. Thank you.